Welcome, gentlemen, to another session with Porn Reboot's neural reprogramming coach, Milan. Welcome, Milan.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
As usual, we're going to get right into it. We know you guys are very busy gentlemen. And today we're going to be talking about what I consider to be a superpower for many men, and that is self talk. Now, some of you may have heard of the term self talk. Maybe from different sort of self improvement circles, but today we're going to talk about what self talk actually is, the importance of it, and how you can develop it in your life, not just for rebooting, but just for helping you to achieve your goals. So let's get started. Milan, we hear a lot about self talk. What is it?
Well, you're absolutely right when you say it's a superpower because it really is. And I hope our viewers will find out during this interview all about that superpower. The main thing we can say about self-talk to define it, it's kind of a intrapersonal communication, the way we use our internal speech and communication. And we hear that communication, we hear it with a part of our mind that is in charge for auditory um, input, if we can say like that. So it also includes when we are speaking to ourselves out loud, which is completely normal, unless you are doing this in front of everybody, and then you might seem a little bit weird, but it's still considered to be a normal thing. We do it all the time. Everybody does it. It's okay if we are hearing this kind of voice in our head, as long as it's not hallucination that is outside of ourselves. Now, that is the time when we should definitely look for some additional help,
Yeah.
for sure. Much of the time, this self-talk is on the edge of our awareness. So it's kind of a half-conscious kind of thing, but it's happening all the time. Imagine like you are having a commentator going in your mind all the time, but you don't listen to always. Yeah. So like I said, it happens all the time. It doesn't happen on random. If you pay attention to your internal dialogue, you will see that it reflects your thoughts and emotions. Pretty much everything that is on the outside, what is happening to you right now, there could be a self-talk at the back of your mind. But if you pay attention, like I said, you can really notice that pretty much every moment we have something that talks about what we are currently experiencing. So for most people, it could be, self-talk about the future. For some will be talking about their past. Others will just have kind of positive self-talk that has kind of an upbeat, but in other cases that can be a negative self-talk that makes you not feel so great. Sometimes we are focused more on people with that self-talk, and sometimes more on things. Sometimes we are focused on others, but most of the time we are focused on ourselves. And in general, there are two types of self-talk. The one is dysfunctional, that tells a kind of a bad story about ourselves, the wrong story that make us feel hopeless, helpless, that we can't do anything, that is out of our reach, out of our control. And we have a constructive self-talk that really makes us feel awesome. That's our superpower. We can achieve all our goals and feel really, really wonderful.
Okay, excellent. Within thank you for breaking that down. Within the program, I think we simplify it and we call it positive and negative self-talk. But I think it's a lot more direct when you say, it makes a lot more sense when you say dysfunctional and constructive self-talk. Now, you said that, dysfunctional self-talk makes us feel hopeless, helpless, and maybe like victims, while constructive is the one that's our superpower, where all the positive things happen. Um, why is it so important? You see people who, typically some clients will mention to me, well, JK, if you say self-talk is so important, why is it that I see people who are successful and seem happy, but they never talk about their self-talk. Um, like they're trying to find out what is the importance of self-talk in our lives. And sometimes even when I explain it, brothers are skeptical. They're like, I don't know about that. It sounds a little out there. So could you briefly tell us why self-talk is so important to our lives?
It is important because it helps us to know ourselves in a better way. When we are listening to our self-talk, we are able to discover all our patterns, thinking patterns, specifically when it comes how we react to outside event. Um, and once we manage to notice all these patterns, how we are thinking in certain areas of our life and specific situations, well, that then gives us opportunity to do something about it, because it's kind of a habit to have that self-talk. Nobody taught us really how to use it, how to think about it, and it's already there. It's like installed, and when we pay attention to it, we are then able to use some methods and then change that self-talk if it has some negative impact on our life, because it does. What self-talk is doing to us is putting us in a certain state of mind.
Hmm.
Whatever state of mind we are in, this is how we are going to behave and how we are going to react. When we are having negative self-talk, we are most likely gonna go down road where we're gonna meet all the depression, anxiety, insecurity, or any other negative emotions. But when we have a positive self-talk, when we are using our superpower, well, we have access to those wonderful emotions. We are happy, we are confident, we are full of optimism and other things that are quite useful to us. When we are met with stressful situation, when we have that physiological response to an outside event, well, if we have a negative self-talk, that can increase the level of stress. It makes stress even more stressful. Yeah.
Wow.
So it amplifies all the negative things and can also amplify positive things. So it's kind of a choice that is given to us. And given that we use self-talk, well, we have a pretty much clear choice what is good for us and what is not good for us.
Thank you for breaking that down. I wanted to ask briefly for, you've coached many brothers in both of our programs. For those of you who don't know, Milan runs a weekly group coaching session on Zoom within the implementation program. And it's very difficult to get in contact with Milan one-on-one, almost impossible, actually. So one of the ways that people reach him is those men who are in the Reboot program is within the intensive. Is probably one of the few places where you can also work with him one-on-one in Porn Reboot. You've had a lot of experience with brothers who are dealing with an out of control sexual behavior. It's interesting because one of the things you've mentioned was that a lot of brothers who deal with an addiction, something they cannot control in their life, often have negative self-talk. Could you just briefly mention some of your observations when it comes to brothers struggling with an out of control behavior,
Mhm.
and the patterns you've noticed in their negative self-talk?
Yeah, when what is self-talk is doing, because it's connected to our main self, right? Our ego is going to make a lot of judgments on our performance as we do it. So some of those judgments can be positive, and some of those can be quite negative. So when somebody is already under stress, like I said, and they are having some sort of experience, if they have a certain thought, like how they're going to behave, how this is going to end up, that negative self-talk can increase all of that and make things even worse. Uh, so examples that they are how brothers are having difficulties is just by, how can I say this, constantly having that negative self-talk that is
Hmm.
repeating all the time. It's a way of thinking that they don't even notice. It just happens for them, and they don't know the reason why they're in such a bad state. But it just happens for them because it is a feedback loop that happens with this negative self-talk. It is a pattern that is repeating. So each time something hits their perception, they automatically go to that negative self-talk. And once they recognize this pattern, they are able to break the pattern and put something different inside. What you put in is what is coming out.
Gotcha. I think you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned that it's a negative feedback loop, because a lot of the brothers that I coach, they don't realize that they have a negative feedback loop. So they show up, and as they start going through the reboot, they run into obstacles and roadblocks. A lot of times the obstacles and roadblocks, they actually have all the ability to overcome it, but they don't realize that the minute they hit it, there's a program that starts in their head, which is them telling themselves that you're a loser, you're probably not going to do it. Oh, here we go again. You dealt with this in the past. You definitely can't do it. You're not gonna have enough time. This is gonna be super stressful. Is this even worth it? You know, you failed the last time. All those different things. So I love the fact that you mentioned that it's an automatic feedback loop. With
It
that
is.
being said,
Mhm.
if we know that, okay, cool, it's an automatic feedback loop, how can we use this knowledge to our advantage? Like, how
Mhm.
can we reverse that? Can we create a positive self-talk feedback loop so that when we hit an obstacle or we slip during our reboots, the
Mhm.
automatic thing that comes are just like positive things, like you can do this, like, how is that even possible? Well, I
Yes,
personally know it's possible, but I want you to say it for the brothers who are listening.
yes, it is possible, and it is actually quite easy. Like you mentioned, when brothers hit an obstacle, what are self talk? If it's not under our control, if we think it's not under our control, well, it distorts our perception of the challenge and our ability to meet that challenge. So this is what happens, and then we tend to create that routine task or something that we're about to do much more difficult than actually it is. Yeah, it becomes like some scary thing that we are not able to overcome. And the first step to take control over our self-talk is to just pay attention to our thoughts. Leave the phone on the table, leave that book, sit quietly and notice, just listen what's happening inside your mind. You sooner or later you will notice that internal voice. Once you recognize it, then you can pay attention to it even more, and you can start journaling about it. You can make two lists, dysfunctional and constructive self-talk. So you can write down each time you have a dysfunctional thought and when you have a constructive thought, and you can recognize in which areas you tend to use one another more or less. Once you have that complete list, not complete list, but huge amount of information when it comes to how you are talking to yourself, then you can actually decide, okay, these dysfunctional thoughts, I can actually change them. And people find it difficult only when they are trying to change these dysfunctional thoughts immediately into super positive ones, into super um, constructive thoughts. So there is a lot of resistance. So we need something in between. Once we have dysfunctional thoughts, it's the first task is to make them sound ridiculous. So this is something I always teach to all the brothers. Read them out loud, but use a funny voice, or think about them that Donald Duck is saying all of these things. So it will take away the power from all these dysfunctional thoughts. And once you transform it a little bit, they lose the power. And then you can say, okay, from now on I'm going to use opposite of that. If I was saying to myself, I'm a loser, I'm going to say, I am actually quite capable of doing something. I'm a success, I'm a winner, or something like that. So this is the easiest exercise that anybody can do, and they can change how they feel under 1 minute. I prove it so many times in group calls, show to brothers. Everybody has their own unique voice, so they just need to start listen to it and then apply this method, which is to transform, make it sound ridiculous, and then install something that will encourage you to do what you would actually like to do.
Dude, thank you so much for that, man. Guys, those of you who are listening and watching this live, you just got two techniques right there. The first was to make a list of your dysfunctional and your constructive self talk and keep building on the list. Um, my recommendation always is when I started using lists, I knew I would write the list down somewhere and I was so disorganized, I would lose it. So I personally keep my most important lists every couple of weeks in my bathroom because I know I'm going to see it by the mirror. So for example, I just wrote this down because I had one is that this situation, whatever tough situation I'm going through, that it is not happening to me, it is happening for me. And this is a new self-talk that I want to develop in my mind. Just sharing something I'm doing. And the second one that Milan just shared is take that negative self-talk that just like, oh my God, bro, you're definitely gonna relapse. You can't do it. And try this because a lot of guys are skeptical because we're all masculine and we want to try something cool, and it's not cool to have your voice be like a little Mickey Mouse voice or a Donald Duck voice, but
Yeah.
try it and you realize how ridiculous the negative self-talk is. You might even realize like, wow, that's actually pretty childish. That's what a child would say. And I'm saying it as an adult, right? Well, finally, what's possible, Milan? What is truly possible? We talked about this being a superpower when we master our self-talk.
Mhm. Well, it will definitely affect our self perception of others, and how we deal with outside world. We become more, we develop more emotional intelligence. So we learn how to be more friendly to ourselves, and of course friendly to other people. It affects all of our personality traits. So by using our superpower in the right way, we become more open to new things, to new experiences. We develop curiosity, which is great. Also, we have conscientiousness, and people who develop that, they become well organized. They are more tidy. That they are having more options, and they think in a more strategic way. They become more agreeable. So we tend to be friendly. We look for cooperation. We become more extroverts. So we are out there to see what's out there in the world. We are open to people, and also we become more emotionally stable. So we are more resilient to stress when we are using that superpower.
You mentioned a whole bunch of things. I'm going to break it down. And thank you so much, man. So much knowledge there. I'm going to break it down for those who are watching this and how it relates to your out of control behavior. You had mentioned emotional intelligence, Milan, which is very
Mhm.
important. One of the things I've noticed in clients when they improve their self talk is also an increase in the ability to be compassionate towards themselves, right? Which
Yes.
simply means that you come in feeling like a failure, feeling like you're not worthy of love because you're hiding so many secrets. And so when you learn how to start talking to yourself in a compassionate way and build that habit, you're a lot more forgiving. So when you slip or you relapse, instead of going, oh my God, you're stupid, you don't have willpower, you don't have discipline, you can't do this, you invested in this, and you failed again, you tell yourself that it's okay. There are things that happened in your past that might not be your fault, that the process of going through change and changing behaviors does involve a little bit. You fall down, but you pick yourself up. That this mistake that you made or this slip is not a reflection on who you are. It doesn't make you a worse dad, a worse business person. It doesn't do any of those things. So, brothers, one thing just for your out of control behavior is self compassion. There are many other things. Um, Milan had mentioned conscientiousness, and under that, I would like to add there's an increased sense of self efficacy. So many brothers also join, and Milan has seen this so many times because he works with brothers directly who have limiting self belief. Self efficacy is your belief in your ability to actually complete something, to do something. And many of us are afraid of doing many things in life because we're like, well, I don't know if I can get into a new relationship. I don't know if I can start a new career. I don't know if I can start a program that requires 90 days of commitments to finish it. And that leads to learned helplessness. So self-efficacy in general in your life is a very useful thing. And the last thing I'll share for brothers is that in my life, I got introduced to self-talk um, 16 years ago when I was 21 years old. And I started as an intern selling door to door. And they actually mentioned the term self talk. They knew that it was very difficult to go out in the sun selling Bibles to people and getting rejection from morning till night. They knew you would get discouraged. They knew that you would feel like crap. They knew that you would, when people tell you 18, 20 times a day, get off my porch. I don't want to speak to you. I don't want to buy what you have. Why can't you get a real job? It builds character. Now, people say, like, well, how do you build your character? Well, one of the ways you build your character is actually by having the right self talk. So we would tell ourselves, as you went through, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel amazing right now. I can do that. It's okay. Like if one door closes, another door opens. And we would keep telling ourselves these things. And the power of this, and if you could just tell us about this, Milan, briefly to wrap this up. My experience with self talk has been that repetition is the key, like repeating the self talk that is relevant to us over and over and over again. How important is that repetition part? Because some brothers might try it and be, well, I tried that, but Milan, it just doesn't work.
Mhm.
How often do they have to implement this?
Well, it depends from person to person. You know,
Mhm.
I met brothers who use it only once and that's it. They made a change completely. They
Wow.
completely adapt the positive self-talk. They use it with ease. They don't even think about it. It happens almost automatically. For others, they might repeat it number of times. My suggestion is to use it as, perhaps 2 times a day, in the morning, in the evening. You know, just to wake up, you tell yourself a really positive story, how your day is going to look like. At the end, you say to yourself all the amazing things you did out at the end of your day, and what you're going to do tomorrow, what you're going to dream about, and so on. It becomes a really healthy habit that eventually is going to become so much automatic, we're not going to notice it's going to happen, and we're going to have somebody at the back of our mind giving us all this positive feedback. So it's going to affect our perception in many ways that we just notice in the present moment, like doing anything that we want, that everything is possible, and there is no more limitations to our dreams and desires.
That's amazing. I'll say one thing, guys, just to end this. So Milan said it depends on the person, and that's the difference between him and me. So Milan is an expert at when it comes to changing people. For me, I'm just like, bro, you have to do it like all the time. But Milan can work with somebody directly, and he has that ability because he definitely understands this stuff at a much deeper level than I do, of helping you make a transformation in the shortest amount of time possible. And speaking of superpowers, I know I haven't mentioned this about Milan. I've just said what he does. That is the amazing thing about you, brother. And it's the fact, it's just that how short of an amount of time you need to change somebody. Sometimes I've been like, yeah, I'm going to send this person to you. What do they need? He's like, we'll start with an hour and we'll see what happens. Sometimes he's like, I might need 2 calls. But for the most part, he can take one of your deepest limiting beliefs and in about 5 hours over time something that has bothered you for 20, 30 years, Milan has the capability of just flipping that, which is absolutely amazing. Now we're running out of time, so gentlemen, if he's going to be humble about it, but gentlemen,
Thank you.
if you would like not just to end your out of control behavior, I believe that it is so important for us to transform our habits, our lifestyle, and finally our self image to live without pornography and masturbation in our life permanently. And you would like to have access to Milan, there are two ways. One is through our implementation program, and one is through the intensive program. And below this video, you'll see a link to get on a call with one of our reboot strategists to get on a call and find out if you are a good fit. As usual, Milan, thank you so much for giving your time today. I know it's late over there to
Thank you
join
for
us for
having me.
this session.
Thank you so much, JK.
Yeah,
It
thank
was
you
great
guys
to
for
meet you.
watching. We do appreciate you guys. Bye.
Take care.